The virtual energy system in Le Mans Ultimate is one of the mechanics that makes the hypercar class such a unique experience. But is understanding how to manage virtual energy during a race as complicated as it seems? Well, it's not, and today we'll show you one of the simplest ways to do it. So today we'll be using what's called the lap method, and it follows this step-by-step process. First, we figure out how much fuel and virtual energy we use per lap. Then we figure out how many laps will be in the race. Then we use that information to plan how many laps per stint, which in turn gives us our basic strategy for fuel and virtual energy. So first, let's find out how much fuel and virtual energy we use per lap. Open a practice session for whatever track you'll be racing on. In the advanced setup menu, go to powertrain. Make sure virtual energy is set to 100% and drag the fuel ratio slider so that there's about 90 litres of fuel in the tank. Then head out on track and drive about 5 or 6 laps. Once you've done this, check the fuel tab in the MFD. Now there's only two values that we care about here, and that's our fuel per lap and virtual energy per lap. Write these numbers down because we'll need to use them later. Next, change the MFD to the pit stop tab. Make sure the virtual energy part is set to 100%, and then you'll see this number of laps next to it. This tells us how many laps a full bar of virtual energy will last based on our current lap times. In this case, a full bar of virtual energy at Spa will last 22 laps. Again, write this value down. Finally, write down whatever your fastest lap time was during that test session. So from our test, we got the following information. A full bar of virtual energy will last 22 laps. We're using 3.99 litres of fuel per lap. We're using 4.36% virtual energy per lap. And our ideal lap time was a 2020. And this is all we need to figure out our race strategy. So next, we're going to use any kind of fuel or race strategy calculator, which will tell us how many laps will be in a race. We have one in our Discord that you can use for free, links in the description below. So here in our calculator, we simply input our race length. For this example, we'll just assume it's a 25-minute race at Spa. Then enter your lap time and fuel per lap. Just set the extra laps to 1 as it's not important, then click submit. The bot will calculate the data for us, and the only value we care about is the race laps, which in this case is 13. This tells us that our race will last 13 laps. To be safe, however, we add one more lap to make it 14. And that's all we need to figure out how much virtual energy and fuel we need for the race. In these shorter hypercar fixed races, you should always just set your virtual energy to 100%, and to figure out how much fuel we need, simply multiply 14, which is our number of laps, by 3.9, which is our fuel per lap. This tells us we need roughly 56 litres of fuel for the race. You can add one more litre to be safe if you like. So now when you start your race, in the advanced setup menu, simply make sure virtual energy is set to 100%, and then drag the fuel ratio slider so that it says 56 litres. So that's all it takes for a short race, and you can see that after doing our initial test, all we need to know is how many laps the race will last for, and the rest comes easily. Now when it comes to longer endurance races with pit stops involved, the process is basically the same with a few extra steps. For our first example, let's use Spa again, but this time a 2-hour race. Entering the same data into the calculator, we can see that our race will last 60 laps. And we add one lap to be safe, making it 61. However, this number doesn't take into account the time that's lost by being in the pits when performing a pit stop, which usually costs about 1 lap for each stop, and that's what we'll figure out now. So we know that a full bar of virtual energy will only last 22 laps, and if we divide things up evenly, it looks like we'd be doing 2 stints of 22 laps and a third stint of 17 laps. So knowing that we'll be doing at least 2 pit stops, we can take this number off of the total, which now gives us 59 laps instead. Now with this new total amount of laps, it looks like we'll be doing 2 stints of 22 laps and then a final stint of 15 laps. And now with this information, we can make our strategy. So for our first stint, we'll be starting with 100% virtual energy, and to figure out how much fuel we need, like before, we just multiply the number of laps, in this case 22, by our fuel per lap, which is 3.99. This gives us roughly 88 litres of fuel, and to be safe, we add 1 extra litre to make it 89. Now for our second stint, we can see it'll be exactly the same. We'll fill up our virtual energy to 100% and put another 89 litres in the tank. Now for our final stint, the process is the same, but this time with the virtual energy as well. First, multiply the amount of laps in the stint, in this case 15, by the amount of virtual energy per lap, in this case 4.36, which gives us roughly 66%. To be safe, make it 67. Now we do the same thing for fuel, multiplying 15 by 3.99, which gives us roughly 60 litres. Again, to be safe, make it 61. So that's our entire race plan done. And to recap, we'll be starting the race with 100% virtual energy and 89 litres of fuel. We'll then pit on lap 22 and fill our virtual energy to 100% and our fuel to 89 litres. Then finally we'll pit at lap 44 and fill our virtual energy to 66% and our fuel to 61 litres, and that'll get us to the end of the race. And that's how simple it is with some basic planning to figure out exactly how much fuel and virtual energy you'll need for a race. There are some times, however, when we can optimize our plan to possibly remove some pit stops by using lift and coast in partnership with the car's lap target function. And this next scenario is a great example of that. Now, if you haven't yet, be sure to watch episode 6 of this series where we cover the lap target system and how it works in Le Mans Ultimate. So for our next example, we've got a 1 hour 40-minute race at Imola. We do our testing on the track first, and you can see that we use 2.9 litres of fuel per lap, 3.28% of virtual energy per lap, and in the pit stop MFD we can see that a full bar of virtual energy will last 30 laps. Now again, in our fuel calculator we enter the values and you can see that this race will last 66 laps. Again, we add one more lap to be safe, making it 67. Now when we divide this up evenly, you can see it looks like we'll be doing 2 stints of 30 laps and then a final stint of 7 laps. Now because we know we'll be doing at least one pit stop here, we can reduce that total lap number by 1, making it 66. So now it looks like we'll be doing 2 stints of 30 laps and then a third stint of 6 laps. And this is where the lap target system comes in handy. You see, instead of doing 2 stints of 30 laps and then a third stint of 6 laps, if we instead set our lap target system to +3, the plan would instead look like this. We would start the race with 100% virtual energy and 30 laps worth of fuel, in this case 90 litres. We then set our lap target system to +3 and stay out for 33 laps. We then pit at lap 33 and again fill up 100% virtual energy and another 90 litres of fuel. We then set our lap target system to +3 again and stay out until the end of the race and finish it by only doing one pit stop. Remember that pit stops cost a large amount of time, and by using the lap target system with some lift and coast, we remove the need to perform that second pit stop. This then saves us a large amount of time to ensure we get the best result possible in our race. Now by following those simple steps, it doesn't matter how long your race is, you can always create a good pit stop strategy using this system, and we'll recap it for you here. First, do a test run on the track to get your fastest lap time, virtual energy and fuel per lap, as well as how many laps a full virtual energy bar will last. Use any kind of fuel calculator tool like the free one available in our Discord to see how many laps your race will last. Remember to add 1 lap to this number to be safe. Divide the total number of laps up evenly using the amount of laps a full bar of virtual energy will last. This will show you roughly how many pit stops you'll need to perform and what the stints will look like. Subtract the amount of pit stops from the total race laps and adjust the stints accordingly. Take a look at this new stint plan and see if you can remove that final pit stop by using the lap target system and then adjust the stints for the final strategy. Remember that this might not always be possible. Once you've got your final strategy, simply multiply the amount of laps in each stint by your fuel and virtual energy values to get the right amount for each stint. From experience, it'll usually only be that final stint that will be something other than 100% virtual energy and a full tank of fuel. So now we'll leave you with an exercise to practice what you've learned. I want you to give me the strategy for a 10-hour race at Spa. Simply do the test laps yourselves and then follow the steps we mentioned to come up with your own race strategy. Then leave your strategy in the comments below. Just remember that there's no single correct strategy here and it all depends on your pace on the track, so build the strategy that works for you. Now if you've got any further questions about virtual energy or Le Mans Ultimate in general, then feel free to leave them in the comments below. But as always, thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.